Welcome back to episode 62 of the Disorganized Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Adam.
Hello.
And Cam.
Greetings.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournament stories,
Greetings.
just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic. You almost threw me off, but you didn't.
I'm just saying hello.
Just killed it.
Just trying to be friendly.
Easiest intro of your life.
Yep. Didn't even faze me. Yeah.
You said it quite a few times now.
Yeah, you're like just a god. I could never do it anymore.
I don't even know what episode I took it over on.
I can't remember. We used to switch off.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't. Actually, I could because I listen and know. Like I probably could do it, but it might be a little awkward.
It's ingrained in my brain.
I could get close enough.
Like you just kind of look around as you do it while you're talking. Like it's so easy for you
Don't
to do
even
the
have
intro.
To read it.
No,
It's just muscle memory.
It took a long time though. We had it up on the screen to read it. It's still in the show notes, like in case we had a rough spot, in case somehow like you're out and I have to like read it.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of Magic happened this past weekend.
Yeah, post Pro Tour weekend always like tons of standard GPs. Like
there was 3, Shanghai, Warsaw, and Atlanta. Won by Mono Red, Teamer, and Esper Approach.
Esper Approach.
Ugh.
Woof.
I still can't believe Approach won a tournament.
I mean, Approach isn't really why it wins, though, right? Like, post board, too, I think he probably won a lot of games on, like, Scarab God and Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah, because it was a kind of innovative approach to approach.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question, like a mechanical question about the game. So if Approach won this tournament, is it going to win 7 tournaments from now?
Called shot.
Yeah.
7 cards in.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Okay.
The 7th next standard GP is going to be won by Approach.
The 7th next.
Yeah, because there's 6 other GPs on top of it.
Okay. And they have to be standard. It's just not the.
Do you just
GP.
like lose at Magic and you just quit if you don't know?
If I what?
Like if you're right, what happens? Like you win Magic?
If I'm right, I mean, I'm definitely right. So I don't know. Life goes on.
Oh, we have it wrong.
Good point. I love the show notes from last week. We're still on the Google Doc when we got here, and it was just how smart we are. It
was like the only bullet point.
The only bullet point was just, holy Lord, we're smart. Is that literal world's smartest people, the DWC? Team Trios coming up, by the way, if you want to flex your brain skills.
Team Trios.
At hashtag at the tower.
Really?
Yeah, there's
When?
a Team Trios coming up November 25th.
The last one
it's
didn't
the day
fire.
after my birthday, actually.
Oh, damn it, I can't go.
Yeah, but the last one didn't fire because it was Team Sealed. This one's the standard Modern Legacy.
No,
Right?
I can't go. That's
And-
Grey Cup weekend.
Yeah, noted champions, the 12 Forcemen, are probably going to run it back. We crumpled. You like our name?
12
It was 12 Forcemen because somebody was like, I don't have a legacy deck. Like, can you guys lend us one? And I was like, yeah, what do you want? Like, we got 12 forces between us, obviously. And I was like, oh my God, we're the 12 Forcemen. So we were trying to think of a team name. We ended up going with Team Trash Can because we were all
That's more. That suits you better. I think.
extremely hungover.
And
so
this tournament
is after my birthday. So we will also be extremely hungover. So Team Trash
man.
Can going to run this one back.
Yeah, no, I can't book that weekend off. It's Grey Cup weekend here in Ottawa, and I'm going to be working long hours.
Although, yeah, you're stuck. Although, so it'll be a fun. I think it was a super fun tournament last time. We got carried though hard by Ryan, like hard carry.
What format was he playing?
Modern, and he was playing Storm before. Like, you know how Cam asked a couple episodes, like what changed, and we were both just like, people just didn't like Modern's just
no
slow.
one was playing it.
Yeah, like it's just slow to develop, and no one had sideboard cards for it. No one was playing it. So Ryan literally just went undefeated in the Swiss. Like he just stomped over like he would be done his matches in like 5 minutes because people just had no sideboard card. They just couldn't do anything. It was great.
That's pretty quick for a Storm player.
Yeah. Well, it's literally the only deck he plays in Modern.
Okay.
And so like we wouldn't let him play any other format either, right?
And yeah, and this tournament, like many other tournaments here in Ottawa, take place at the Wizards Tower. Proud sponsor of this podcast. Free shipping on Magic Signals here in Canada and the US. Your source for Magic Signal needs here in Canada.
Yeah, be sure to check out their website, wizardtower.com.
Awesome.
That was a good lead in.
I was planning.
I'm just excited because like team events, if anyone hasn't played them, like if you're in the Ottawa area, come and like
I really wanted to play.
try and dethrone us, but fight me, you won't. But they're super fun. Like I was
Wait, Wait, did one of you guys play Miracles last time?
No, it was after the countertop ban. So both Ron and I were like, "What do we do?" Because previously we had been arguing about who would play the Legacy deck, and we were just both going to play the exact same Miracles 75. We were like arguing about who would play it, and then it got banned, and so he played like some dumpster like 4-color Delver list, but like it was very suboptimal and like it was just horrible. And I think he lost like every round almost. Like we won because of Ryan and I just winning him. And then in the finals, Ron just like beat his opponent in like 2 seconds, so that was lucky.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like anyway. So anyone who doesn't play them, team trios are like probably some of the funnest tournaments I've ever played because like I was incredibly like family show, but I was hungover, like very like miserable. I fell asleep during the player meeting. Like Ryan was like multiple people like looked over and I was just like leaned back like with my head back in my chair just holding a Gatorade just out cold while like the judges are going over everything in the player meeting and they're like, oh yeah, Adam was just snoring during the player meeting, like out cold, just couldn't talk, couldn't function. He's like, yeah, he didn't wake up until he mogged someone on like turn 5 in round 1 and then he was awake. But
back in the glory days of Aetherworks.
Yeah, he was playing Marvel.
yeah, I was playing Marvel. Ryan was playing Storm. We were just not. The best part was a guy who was in our round 1, like, is getting stormed off on in game 2 while I'm still in, like, the other matches are still in their game 1. And he's getting stormed off on, and he's just playing burn. Like, he can't do anything, can't interact. Like, he's just head in his hands. He's like, middle spot at the table. So he's like, oh, I'll see what's going on. And like he looks over, he's like, oh, my opponent's getting Ulamog, or my teammates getting Ulamogged over here. He like looks over at the other side. He's like, and there's a Chalice of the Void and play on the over there. Like in Legacy, he's like, Magic's great. Like just his whole team just couldn't interact or do anything. But I think it was Ron getting Chaliced actually. So it was just like, but it was just 3 games of just non-interaction. It was actually pretty funny.
But that's why Team Trios is good, because when you can't interact in your game, you can just turn to your teammates and play theirs.
Yeah. It's just a lot of fun. Like when you lose, like it doesn't feel as bad. I don't know. Like
I've only played one team event ever, which was GP Detroit back a couple of years ago. It was Magic Origins Team Sealed, I think.
Who'd you play with? I would have been.
I played with 2 of my friends from Sudbury.
Yeah, I was gone that summer.
Yeah. I don't think there was anyone there. Maybe like Andrew and Mike were there, but there wasn't anyone from like our group of friends here in Ottawa. I went up with the Sudbury guys.
But it was fun, I bet, right?
Yeah,
like,
it was a lot of fun.
Super fun. Even if you look, it's just so like, it's just team trios are just great. Like team events in general are hilarious. Like Cam and I just can't win at 2-headed giant. Like actually, like
It's been rough.
our record is just so bad. Like we just get
It's been like a bunch of 0-1 drops in a row.
Well, we just keep 0-1 dropping when we lose. But like even the ones we played,
we're always so exhausted because we only play them during pre-release after we've been up for like 20 hours.
Yeah, and like even the time we were like 3-0 or something, and we were like, all right, sweet, and then we just like went 3-2, just no prize. Basically, we're like, rats. Like we just can't win it 2-headed giant. We're just and we're just like comically unlucky all the time, or we suck at it. We can't. I don't know. Can't decide. But it's still fun.
Take your pick.
We're never even mad. Choose one. But we're never mad. You know, we're all just like, got smushed. Like let's drop and go get food, go to bed. Like,
no, didn't you guys win the Amonkhet one?
We did win one.
Did we?
Or do well, and then
where you had like that crazy discard cycling.
No, we lost
deck?
one.
Yeah, we went 3-1.
We went 3-1.
That was our best performance. That deck was like unreasonable.
Yeah, our deck was like, I was just literally playing combo, like an unbeatable combo deck. And the only reason we lost is Cam in his 2-color deck with 9 planes missed a white source for like 13, 14 turns. And I also missed lands in my mono site, literally 20 card cycling deck, where I cycled every turn and I just bricked every single turn.
Every
Like,
time
that's how lucky we were.
Every time we try and build fair decks in 2-headed giant, though, it just doesn't go well. I don't know what we're missing, or if
No, I think you just have to Voltron. Like you just have to play like
You just gotta play-
enchantments and like
maybe.
suit stuff up. Like you just got to try and cheese people. Like we lost to Axis of Immortality last time. The
True.
Switch life
we
totals.
lost to Access of Immortality and then a top deck.
Yeah, and then a top deck Unfriendly Fire. Good, like we
attacked them to 3,
which was our only attack
their
because it wrathed them.
Yeah, they had to block everything or die so that they did, but they go to 3. Then on their upkeep, they put us to 3, and then they just like flip an Unfriendly Fire off the top.
No cards in hand, just flip an Unfriendly Fire, and we're like, oh, right on.
Well
Just got
played.
got by the combo of Access Immortality, like
And then
you Plague Wind us, and then we gotta kill you. Like okay,
for the rub-ins, they told us afterwards that was the only burn spell in both their decks.
Felt bad, man. And we even said it. We were like, all right, we only lose to Unfriendly Fire here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe they have multiple copies, but like they're dead though next turn. So
We knew though before they cast it because like one of our opponents like drew his card and then like his whole body started shaking.
yeah, we just like did the like Kibler LSV thing, like looked at each other like, eh.
Yeah.
And then he's like, that wins us. And I'm like, yeah, here it comes. Just got domed.
Yeah, maybe like that's an interesting thing. Maybe we're just not being greedy enough, which is, you know, on topic for this episode, as we'll get into. We're just trying to build fair decks into
our
a
like
giant.
best two-headed giant was like,
Yeah, we just did something that probably wouldn't,
which is
like
incredibly
it
greedy.
might be terrible, and it ended up being nuts.
Yeah. Also, like we did that. Like one of the other like two-headed giants was like during Grey that I will like easily like exoed was during Theros or whatever, and we just had like 7 Grey Merchants. And we're like, can we really just play 7 of the same 5 drops? Like, I don't know. That seems like we didn't know at the time, right? And then we like played it. We're like, oh, never mind.
Card's crazy.
Yeah, well, because it did two-headed giant hits them
Yeah.
both, right? Like it's just double effect. Yeah, like their turn, you just like play
Play the
think
second
he
one. They
did
take 8.
nothing. Yeah, like he did nothing through turns 1. Like he kept a hand with like 4 land, like 3 Grey Merchant. Keep like the guy I was playing with, and I was like, that should be fine. Yeah, it was just like 4 you guys, 8 you guys, 16 you guys. Thanks for coming out. It was like you just don't block, you just don't do anything. Like it was ridiculous. That was a fun one.
Oh, jeez.
And then that was when we realized like this card's gonna be busted in standard.
And it
Confirmed.
was.
Confirmed.
Man, I was
Busto.
watching some throwback streams last night and just watching Caleb pack ratting some people. I'm like, this feels good.
Yeah,
This is great.
I watched some LSV was playing Blue White Delver
Oh, yeah.
on a throwback stream. That was cool too. The
Yeah.
standard Innistrad one.
Mm-hmm. Man, there's some really good decks back then.
Yeah, Ponder, Thought Scour, my Blue White Delver deck. Like, come on, man. Banned in modern, legal,
Meta
and
League.
standard. Yeah, like what a world.
Yeah. That's the standard I started playing Magic in.
That was a crazy time, man. Ruined Chanter's Pike on a
Yeah.
Geist.
Yeah.
Invisible Stalker.
Yeah.
Well, Hexproof can't block it. Gonna put this pike on it and get you. That's called the 1-2 punch.
The good old days.
A combo.
Yeah, man. So, 3 standard GPs this past weekend. We
Filled with
saw,
the lineup of regulars.
yeah,
and some
with a
minor
few
tweaks.
spicy, little sprinkles of spice with Grixis improvised deck in Shanghai. To the shock of no one, that was over there. They're doing
dude,
crazy
I love
things
it.
like they
Asian
always
GPs
do.
are the best. They're so
Yeah.
innovative and sweet. Like
Yeah.
not like the boring like European GP. That was just like, what'd you say? You were just like, I'll just be traditional.
Yeah, it's just Europe doing the same thing it's done for 400 years. Traditional, sticking to customs, like
Yeah,
at
it
least
was-
across the pond in America, in like the
No.
unruly
Whoa,
colonies.
Whoa.
There
There
was
was a
some innovation.
Pummeler deck. There was a
There
Pummeler
was
deck
a
in
blue green
Willis's top
pummeler
8.
deck. They clearly listened to the
I mean,
podcast.
Europe has a history of there occasionally being a pummeler, Napoleon, etc.
Pretty sweet though. That blue green pummeler list is sweet, and we had been saying for a while that like blue green pummeler was like probably actually viable. Like on the episode Carol asked, we were like, yeah, but like pummeler probably pretty good. Like it's probably good
Yeah.
enough. Like I played it at the Open to a good record. Like
Yeah, now at top 8's a GP.
yeah, like the deck's good. Like it's solid. Dive down is like sweet in that blue green deck too.
But it's helpful. I don't know if I'd say
The be-
sweet.
The best was 2 weeks ago at the limited GP. I remember watching coverage and Marshall was like, somebody dived down or something, and he's like, or maybe it was during the Pro Tour. The guy like needed to protect his creature. He's like, yeah, well, dive down just hasn't made it to standard yet. Like, ha, but everyone thinks it's good and limited. Like, wrong, Marshall, wrong again.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Warsaw top 8 was almost identical to the Pro Tour top 8.
Yeah, like God Pharaoh's Gift, Mardu,
Yeah.
Salt
I mean,
Energy.
there wasn't a mono red deck, but there was an
Yeah.
extra teamer or 4-color deck instead.
It's funny because you could say like maybe these traditional lists are better against mono red, right? Like you can
Maybe.
tweak them to be better, right? Because you can traditionally we've seen where you can tweak a teamer deck to be good versus mono red. The Sultai Energy is probably like decent versus mono red, right? Like
Yeah.
Fatal Push is like Vraska's Contempt's good, like gets Hazoret out of the way, like it has a good probably setup, but the kind of more innovative decks you might see in like the Shanghai GP like maybe aren't as well positioned, and as a result, and also like we're not like joking when we say that the Asian GPs are usually a lot more innovative, and they got run over by mono red in this tournament. There was 4 in the top 8, and it won, right? So this was like probably a tournament where they thought, okay, well, a lot of people are going to play these 4-color weird experimental greedy decks, and we're just going to like punish them. They're like ahead of the curve.
Well, see, like Mono Red had a really good Pro Tour performance. There was a lot of really well performing red lists in that tournament, and then now half the top 8 in Shanghai was Mono Red. We had a couple of Mono Reds in the top 8 of Atlanta, but like they've just all kind of adjusted to the 4 rampaging Ferocidon. Like some of these decks are playing just 4 in the main deck. All the other ones have 4 in the sideboard. We saw Harsh Mentors coming out at the Pro Tour. Like Teamer used to be the mono red killer, and now
rampaging Ferocidon's a beating.
Yeah, these cards are completely changing that matchup in favor of mono red.
Yeah, like Phil has been just an advocate. Like he's been a guest on the show a couple times, and he's just only goes fast. He just loves playing aggro decks, and he's been saying for weeks or longer maybe that like playing Harsh Mentor and Ferocidon, like it's just a hate bears deck. Like that's what you should be playing. It was like punishing these decks.
Yeah, and then we even saw like Ben Stark in Atlanta went as far as playing Sand Stranglers instead of Hazarets.
This deck's just like Ben Stark's red. They named it differently, at least MTG Goldfish. They're not calling it Ramunap Red. They're calling it Desert Red because it's got Sand Stranglers in it. But it's almost big enough that it's like a different philosophical approach to red. Like it's playing Glorybringers. It's got a bunch of Chandras. It's only playing 1 Hazaret. Like it's almost a different archetype.
Not playing 4 Shaw,
right? Like it's such a different approach.
It's playing Magma Spray, like
and I mean it's playing the 3 Ferocidon main deck, playing Dunes of the Dead, going deeper on deserts. Like
that's a
this is playing 2 treasure map. Like it's a red deck that has card draw.
Yeah, 2 treasure map is wild. Like it's actually crazy. This is a big red deck.
Yeah.
Right? This is what the archetype is referred to as big red.
Yeah.
Playing Flame Tongue Kabu and Shivan Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, Sand Strangler is really impressive in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, it gets Whirler Virtuoso out of the way.
Yeah.
And if then they're putting the awkward...
so many things.
I mean, the curve of rampaging Ferocidon into Sand Strangler, when they, they're kind of like, historically, Whirler Virtuoso is their like safety measure, right? That's their kind of get out of jail free card, They've referred to it as. And, if you're on the plane, you go rampaging Ferocidon and they go, well... Okay, I'll play this Whirler Virtuoso and then Harness Lightning next turn. Well, then your guy gets Sand Stranglered, and what, you gonna make Thopters or not? Like, you're just in such an awkward position, right? Yeah, because then you're taking damage from the Ferocidon, you can't block. Like, then you have to spend your turn,
Glorybringer and you're dead.
Right, and then you have to spend your turn Harness Lightning anyway, and then you just die the next turn to a Glorybringer, because you're taking
And it's doing simultaneously. Like we had mentioned that we thought the red decks may go a bit more creature heavy to try and get around all these Thopters, or play sort of more hateful creatures, because if you have to spend your turn upbraiding a Whirler Virtuoso, they don't really care because it doesn't apply any pressure. Or if you're striking any of Teamer's creatures, that's fine for them. This just also applies pressure while it strikes something. It's exactly what red wants to be doing against Teamer.
Yeah, and it still has the 1-drops to put pressure on. And also, I bet throughout the GP, people just sort of panicked and played it as if it would have just a bunch of go wide smaller strategy and then get beat down by the bigger, the 3 Chandra.
That too. If you like left creatures back to play around like a potential Hazaret, or if you're just worried about Hazaret and then they play a Glorybringer, you probably didn't attack correctly.
Right. So like
I'm like really curious about these treasure maps.
Yeah, me too. Playing 2 treasure maps is like, that's wild.
I just don't understand. Why not just play like anything else? I don't understand.
Yeah, sometimes you're gonna run out of cards.
Yeah,
I guess because you're
on a red, like this deck's playing 25 land, right?
Yeah,
and like mono red floods, it dies, but this gives you a way out.
Yeah,
that also is obviously like why he's cutting Hazarets too. Like,
well, he's playing 25 land because he's playing Glorybringer in the main deck.
Yeah,
right. But I don't know, like all the other mono red decks are playing 24. I mean, this guy's playing a lot more like colorless lands.
Noted reformed cheater in the top 8.
That too. Like it could just be that the treasure map is like not what you want. Like it's not the best card you want, but if you're adding colorless lands, it's something you can cast that's potentially relevant. Like, what else are you casting with colorless lands that this deck wants to be doing? Like, Ballista doesn't do enough. Is there anything else?
No, it seems good. Like, interestingly though, like he lost to Approach, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because like his plan kind of plays into what Control wants. He's slower and bigger.
Mhm.
You know, like Treasure Map's not good enough versus Control. They don't care.
No.
You tap for a Treasure Map, they're like, sweet, I win.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like the grindier mid range decks, like maybe you can go toe to toe for a while with them, but you can't go toe to toe like drawing cards with Approach.
There's no way.
So like, it's kind of funny. Like in some ways, it sort of played into what Control wanted, which I think is why the Approach deck ended up beating Ben Stark in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually watch the match. I'd like to though.
Yeah, I watched everything up until it, and then I had to go. That guy's been grinding for a long time. Who played the Esper Approach list?
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah. When I played him at Quebec City a couple years ago, he was like, I didn't know who he was, and then Dylan was like, "Oh no, I see that guy like every GP. Like he's been playing for years. He was a really friendly opponent. He's a good dude."
Yeah. So I mean, aside from that, like there's a 4-color energy deck playing Nicol Bolas in the main deck, but I mean, nothing really.
A lot of
Too
Rivers
crazy.
rebukes in the sideboards.
Yeah, that card's great.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you also see literal 0 tokens anymore for a reason.
Yeah, it's
Doing
not
well.
just that though. It's good against God Pharaoh's Gift too.
Yeah, it's
which
insane.
people still
It's
play.
comical versus them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just insane versus them. Like
Mhm.
it's just a good card.
Yeah.
So notably though, like the rest, like there's still a lot of teamer and or 4-color energy in this top 8. But if you compare the deck construction between, you know, the North American teamer decks and the European teamer decks, we were mentioning like the European ones are just extremely traditional. Like you can go back a couple months, like Pro Tour lists or like even the Peach Garden Oath teamer when people were claiming that, you know, Peach Garden Oath solved it for Worlds. These lists are pretty much those. 2 Confiscation Coups, a Magma Spray, 4 Harness Lightnings, like 3 Glory-Bringers. The North American ones have like a lot of different card choices. Like there's a Sky Sovereign floating around. There's less Glory-Bringers. There's a list that is playing Glint Sleeve Siphoners. Like they're asking a lot more out of their like one-ofs and like flex slots, or they're just going much more heavier on a color in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say they're too different though. Like this is kind of what people were doing at the Pro Tour
Yeah,
already. But I mean, I'm not really
no,
expecting.
they're
Is
not
that
like
2 hour of devastation in Peter Sogerex?
Yeah.
So your X sideboard?
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yep.
Like these are the kind of cards in mid range deck. This is the whole point of playing mid range, in my opinion. Like people, it's like Cam was just talking about like these flex slots and like, oh, it's been solved and stuff. Like I don't like that's such a right. That's such a foolish way to think.
I'm not
about-
saying that it's solved.
No,
but
I know
yeah,
you don't agree.
Yeah,
I know
people,
you don't
when they
agree.
thought it was solved.
Right. I'm saying that that's a foolish line of thought. Like,
Mhm.
in fact, like playing these kind of spicy cards is like the best part of mid range being a good deck. It's like you get to blindside people.
Yep.
Right. Like you're playing a stock list, quote unquote, so they will play like accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to get them, you know? So,
Dude, I still think back fondly to when I was playing Jeskai Sahili, and everybody would leave up removal for the combo, and they would ignore my Sahili, and so then I would ultimate it, and they would all like do a double take because nobody had any ultimate targets other than like a torrential. But I was also playing a combustible Gear Hulk and a Dynavolt Tower, just one of each.
just go pull them out of your deck.
Right, and I would just like grab 3 cards, and like people would be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I'd just be like, "Okay, Dynavolt Tower because I got a bunch of energy from Glimmering. Torrential Gear Hulk, it's going to cast a Glimmer, and like combustible trigger. What do you want to do?"
Yeah, didn't you just like win every time on spot,
Yeah,
basically?
because
of
nobody
it?
ever attempted to pressure the Sahili. They just ignored it, thinking that the only threat was the Felidar Guardian.
Yeah. And like never they wouldn't even disallow the ultimate.
Right. They'd just be like, yeah, sure. Like, it's a torrential. You have like only counter spells in your graveyard or something. Like, it's fine. Yeah. Nobody
just think-
respected it.
Yeah. Like I think that is like a really kind of like that's a greedy deck building decision, but one that like it's just so incredibly
Oh, yeah. I had people like watching games and I'd like draw an opening 7 and there'd be a combustible in it. And they'd be like, what are you doing?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
I'm mulliganing, but
yeah. What are you doing? Mauling? Yeah, I think that though, like that's an interesting time and decision in Magic, and I think that's like part of the fun of playing mid range and why I'm like I don't mind Teamer being the best deck right now because like I think there's room for all this kind of crazy stuff that happens, like putting Hour Devastations in your deck. Like you can try all this crazy stuff. There's so many powerful cards that sort of just slot into mid range decks depending on what you think is happening.
And you're not even really color limited in these Teamer decks.
Oh Lord, no, there's just no white card we're splashing for.
Yeah, we just haven't seen anybody play a white card yet, but maybe someone will figure it out.
There just aren't ones we're
Yeah,
splashing
what,
for.
what white card would
No,
you?
that's
Well,
the
I don't
problem.
know.
It's just white sucks.
Yeah, there aren't really cards
Unless
at
it's
the moment.
mono white
But,
vampires.
yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, like Moto's still really diverse. There's a whole bunch of garbage all over the place.
Dude, white blue cycling.
Yeah,
I'm
A
assuming that's
crazy
just a
deck I
Drakehaven
talked
deck.
about, dude.
Yeah.
yeah, and
It's literally on the page for MTG Goldfish. No way.
blue black mid range.
Yeah, that
Whoa.
deck. Okay, somebody was doing fairly well, if not extremely well, at one point in the GP with that deck. I think they were like 11-1 with this deck.
Just blue black good cards.
Yeah, it's just blue black good cards. Like it's like Kitesail Freebooter, Gonti, Hostage Taker, Scarab God, like Fatal Push. It's just all the best blue black mid range cards. This is a deck that is close probably to contender for when rotation happens. Like
Yeah,
It's
well,
just-
I mean, 4 Scarab Gods. You're gonna draw one.
Mm-hmm.
well, those will rotate out with Kaladesh, don't they?
No.
No, they're from our.
I think no, because they went back to like two blocks
went back
rotating
to
at
the
once,
two
right?
blo-
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hour and whatever. will
Kaladesh
rotate.
and Amonkhet.
But
are
I
gonna
meant
rotate.
like it plays the powerful cards from this set from Ixalan, right? Like
Yeah,
Freebooter and
Yeah.
Chart of Course.
yeah.
And it's even playing Walk the Plank and Vraska's Contempt. Like these are cards that I think you'll see being very powerful when energy rotates out.
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, all of its creatures rotate
Yeah, you'll find.
except Hostage Taker. like
Yeah, well, I mean, that
and
card's-
Freebooter.
that
I
card-
mean,
those
this deck is not existing.
No, but I mean, you can find replacements for those, like a 2/3 Death Touch. You can find a replacement for a 4-up for a 2/3 Death Touch.
Yeah, but can you find a replacement for Scarab God? Like,
Probably not.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the best standard finishers we've seen
Yeah, like
ever. But like I'm saying, like you can find other finishers. I just mean like these cards are clearly the most powerful Ixalan cards, right?
Yeah, they're
like-
like some of the only ones seeing play are the black
Yeah,
cards.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
the blue and black cards because like the rest suck. Like Chart of Course is so good. Well, Search for his Kanta also like busted beyond belief
Mhm.
apparently, but
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, standard's still kind of all over the place. I've been playing a lot of Moto recently. I've been playing a lot against the mono black vehicles deck.
Oh, with Conquistador and Night Market Lookout. Is that the one?
Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah, Dread Wanderer,
Yeah,
Heart of Kieran, that stuff. That deck, I only ever lose to it if I don't like if I have a normal draw or better. It's always an easy win.
I don't
But
think that deck's very
It doesn't seem
it's
very
not.
good.
It's I don't know. I wasn't very impressed with it.
I don't like
I don't think it's playing a single 3-power creature in the Heart of Kieran deck.
I've always thought that mono
No, they
black
play
aggro decks.
Scrap Heap Scrounger and Ruin Raider and Amid Eternal.
Oh, okay. My bad.
All those cards suck except for Scrap Heap Scrounger. But yeah, I've always just found that mono black aggro decks are always just underpowered versions of mono red. That's just always what they seem to be. Anytime they've cropped up in standard throw, they just seem so underpowered.
They need something else because they don't have the burn. Like they don't have any way to like finish the game when their creatures can't get through. They need some other way. Like the zombies decks from last standard had card draw mechanics and had recursion mechanics to get through. But like these don't. They don't have anything.
Oh, I saw a Scarab God get doomfalled this weekend on the GP coverage
Out of hand or off the battlefield?
off the battlefield.
That's a rip.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's like even coverage was like, woof, that never happens. The guy was like pretty bummed about it. It was
Yeah.
out of this blue black mid range deck. That's why I remembered because he was playing against like 4-color energy and they played a Scarab God and he was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he's like, okay, just like untap Doomfall and played a freebooter.
That's a beating.
Yeah, that's a
I mean, I bet
that's a
our-
paddling.
I bet R&D is super happy that like just a dumb blue black mid range deck is beating gods with cards print to beat gods. Like
Yeah, that's a boot. Yeah. Well, Vraska's Contempt, That card's good.
True.
Good against gods.
Good against, everything Vraska looks down upon.
Why does she look down upon them? She can't even exile them.
I don't actually know how tall Gorgons are.
Right, I don't know if they're that.
But she's got to at least be able to like stick her snakes in the air and they can look down.
Right, yeah. And she just like looks at stuff.
Right, so she's got to at least be like
She's a looker.
8 feet tall if she needs to be, snakes included.
Or stretch.
Do the snakes stretch?
I don't know. They
They uncoil.
Uncoil? There we go.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of the word.
I wonder if she has to use a curling iron to recoil them.
I don't actually think she has snakes for hair.
Vraska?
Yeah.
Why?
I think
Why
they're
would you
just-
think that?
I think they're just gelled back.
No,
on the
no,
card.
like
She
I
puts them
don't,
in a
I don't
ponytail.
actually think she has snakes for hair.
A snake tail.
Chimera tail, not a ponytail.
Oh yeah.
Because
you're right.
chimeras they have a snake for a tail, right?
Yeah. Nice.
And ponies have hair for tail, so that's why we call it that in real life.
We've derailed a little bit.
Yeah, whatever.
So?
Getting a flavor. Can we get a
Yeah,
flavor
this is also
judge in here?
important. Pull up a picture of Vraska. She definitely has snakes for hair,
All right.
Yeah, we gotta get to
Hold
the
up.
bottom of this. This is like Mythbusters.
right? Please hold.
Enjoy this dead air while we check.
All right. So, okay. Speaking of Vraska and why Vraska was sent to Ixalan was to find hidden treasure, right? Because Bolus wants whatever's hidden on Ixalan. So she was
Wait, did
sent
you call it Ixaland?
Ixalan. Ixalan.
No,
Regar-
I thought you called it Ixaland, and I was like, that's funny.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't thinking. Anyway, so this segue, this long-winded segue, is that Vraska was sent to Ixalan because of Bolus's greed. It was motivated by greed, and what we're about to talk about is greed as a concept in Magic and what it means for plays and decks to be greedy.
Oh, she definitely has snakes for
Yeah,
Those aren't
they
snakes.
just style it. They just don't have mouths.
There's no snakes.
they're not hair.
Dude, that's snakes.
It's
They're
just like
snakes.
tentacle. Look, there's literally no faces on those.
She could basically, what you're saying is she could also just basically be a mind flayer.
Pull up her old art.
Yeah, dude, pull up the old one. Vraska the Unseen.
She's a Gorgon.
Yeah, look, no snakes.
What do you mean?
That's
no
just stylized, man. This artist, whoever drew this, is a jabroni.
Probably never seen a snake in their life.
Oh my, see?
No snakes.
They got scales.
Dude, they're like mouthless snake bodies. She has snake bodies for hair, but not a full snake.
They're maybe
Yeah,
they're
there's
just
no,
the tails.
There's no heads on the snakes.
She is the snake head. They're the tails.
Yeah, all right. That
Holy.
makes sense. Dude, he's right.
Yeah.
I guess.
Maybe this artist is just on another level.
Yeah, we just didn't know. But
So Bolus sent because he wants treasure.
yeah, Bolus wants treasure. So Bolus is being greedy. So since we all should aspire to be more like Bolus in our day-to-day life, how do we play Magic in a greedy way? And what does that mean? When do we want to do it? Etc.
Always.
This is the first in our series.
This is the first in our series of playing Magic based on the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, never mull.
Hashtag family show.
Never mull. Greedy. Keep
Right?
7. There's
Yeah, right. These should be the 7
rather die.
principles in your opening hand before you draw your opening hand.
Literally rather die. I hate shuffling.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
I hate it. Even on Moto, I'd rather die than hit mulligan. 'Cause then I have to re-hit keep. My APM isn't that high. I can't click twice that fast. I'm so prone to misclicking on Moto, it's unreal. So like I can't take that risk.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna accidentally click keep anyway, so I just don't even check.
All right, so we're talking about greed.
Yeah.
How about you kick things off with what is greed and what are we talking about when we say greed in the terms of Magic?
Yeah.
You hear it a lot, but like I don't know that people are entirely clear on
Right.
what
That was
it is.
kind of what motivated like my thought for having this as a good topic is that it's one of those things that if you've played Magic or you've hung around people who play Magic, like the term greed gets, people use it all the time. Like someone will keep a hand. Oh, that was too greedy. Someone will make a bad block. Like, you needed to be greedier with your creatures. Like,
When you were like, if you've hung around with people who play Magic or you play Magic a lot, I thought you were just gonna be like pause and be like, rip you. I don't know why. I just started laughing. I'm sorry. But you were just so like serious and like affecting such a pedagogical approach to this, you know? So
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
I mean, that is my like general approach to jokes is appear serious and then just like throw in a punchline straight faced.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you.
Yeah, then rip you. But anyway, sorry, I'm just derailing here.
So greed is a term that gets used a lot. And some newer players might not know exactly what's being referenced by this. And so, yeah, we wanted to talk about it. And the first level is that greed is used to refer to a play that is high risk for a high reward. It's just a very it is a very risky play. It's demanding more than you reasonably should out of your cards, out of, your draws, because you're expecting them to be lucky or you're expecting things to go well for you.
Right. Yeah. And so it's important though to note that this term, the reason I think partly we're talking about is like this term gets used as like that was a greedy attack instead of that was just a massive punt, right? Like there's a difference between greedy and just wrong, right? Greedy was like, okay, well, so I guess this is the next point, which is like, why be greedy?
Right.
Like in what situations is it actually greedy? Like, and why are you being greedy?
Okay, so example, if I attack with my creature into your creature that's bigger, pretending I have a trick when I don't, would you consider that a greedy play just to get in the damage?
Yes.
In most cases, probably.
It depends how much damage it is, right? Like if you're attacking with a 1/2 into my 3/3, like that's not a relevant amount of damage, and I'm probably going to try and trade a trick for it because it's so clear. Like you're not pushing any damage, even if I don't want to try and trade a trick. Like okay, take one.
Yeah,
Actually,
it depends if they have
I'm
a double.
wrong. I wouldn't try and
Or it
trade a
depends
trick
if
for
they have
that
a
there.
double block. It just depends on a lot of things. It can be greedy, it can not be, but
In that strict example, though,
Yeah,
one
but like-
creature, don't have a trick. I'm going to attack anyway.
so
So
you're just gonna straight lose it if they.
Yeah.
What's the upside though if they don't block?
Get the damage in.
see that's why I'm saying
Oof.
that like the damage.
Is that greedy? That's greedy,
That's just
though, right?
is that greed or is that bad?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's greed if the damage is enough, because like my definition of greed is high risk, high reward. Attacking like that is high risk regardless, and if your creature doesn't have a lot of power, then there's no high reward
Yeah, like
to trade that
attacking a
off for.
1/2 isn't greedy. That's just bad.
Right. But if it's enough damage or a relevant amount of damage, then, or if, you have other sort of meta rewards, like you can trick them into thinking you have a trick so that you can attack differently later on, like
Yeah. I'm
whatever.
attacking my 4/4 into your 5/5.
But you need,
Yeah,
Four is a
that's
relevant
okay.
amount of
That's
damage.
that's probably greedy. That's probably worth the 4 damage.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, and so,
then
but
the reward
in
needs
what
to be there.
case? But in what case do you do this as well? Right? Is like you probably don't do it if you're ahead.
No.
Maybe you do, actually. In some, you not usually, but I'm saying if you can press like even then just too scared to block, right? But yeah, generally you want to do it behind, right? Like you can't win without that 4 damage.
Yeah.
So you have to make the greedy play because really it's your only play.
Yeah, that's the general like rule of thumb. So like you take these high risk plays when they're your only way out or when you need something swingy to get you back in the game. So like if you find yourself behind in a game that you're probably going to lose, start going wild because like I don't know, you're going to lose anyway, so maybe you'll win if something goes right for you. So like that's when you need to start demanding the most out of all of your cards.
Right, and you also have to demand the most out of your luck.
Right. Like,
Like-
you can't win unless you draw the card you need and get in this 4 damage. So you just attack and hope that they don't block because I mean you're losing.
You
You're
try and
losing if
bluff
you don't get the
however
4.
you want to bluff, but yeah.
Yeah, but like say you lose if you don't get the 4 damage in. If they block, okay, scoop up your cards. If they don't, like now you have more of a chance than you did.
Yeah.
So yeah, generally speaking, greedy is about coming back, right? Trying to swing the game back in your
It's
direction.
pretty much
or-
just can be interchangeably used with risky. Like it's almost it almost means the same thing.
So yeah, we have as a show note here, like, and I mentioned a lot of times mulligan or like decisions to keep or mulligan are, I think, the things that are most commonly referred to as greedy. And you'll see this when people like convince themselves like, oh, I'm playing 7 forests and only 2 of my other things, and I don't have a green source in my Sultai deck, but there's a lot of forests, and they keep a hand with like no greens. It's not no green source, but there's an attune, and I've got a lot of forests. Like that's an extremely greedy keep because you have to draw a forest very soon.
or you just lose.
But that hand has for some reason convinced you it's good, so it's probably got like a lot of other nuts cards in it. It's probably only got like 1 other land and an attune and like 5 very good cards. So if you do draw the forest, you're going to run over your opponent and they're not going to know the risk you took. But like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so mulligans are most commonly called greedy, but I do think that it's wrong to mull greed, like to keep greedy hands most of the time.
Correct.
We were just mentioning like you only need to do it when you're behind, but you're never behind when you're deciding to keep or maul, unless you know you're in a bad matchup.
Right. That's one of the cases. But like just blindly like keeping a greedy hand is not correct.
Right.
And people do it all the time. They're like, well, it was a greedy keep. As if that's a justification.
And it's not.
That's not even like greedy. That's just bad.
Unless you're playing a matchup that's like 70-30 or worse for you.
Right. And then you just got to get
Then you
lucky.
have to keep hands like that could pan out.
Yeah, of course. But like, yeah, a lot of times you'll hear people justify, well, it was a greedy keep, but if I got it, it's like, yeah, but the percentage you get it is so low.
Right.
So what are you doing? Like, not on the mull, but there are certainly decks where you basically have to keep and hope you get lucky, right? Like, not all of them, but we talked about before the show a bit, like with during Modern Masters.
Yeah, so in Standard, generally decks are consistent enough and have a high enough power level that you don't need to do this. Like, you don't need to take these risks unless you're in a very bad matchup. You can, like, a 6 is going to be better than a greedy 7 because, you know, there's, especially with the scry now, and it's just almost always going to be better. But in terms of mulliganing, this was something that Adam has mentioned, and we've mentioned on the show before. When Modern Masters was last being drafted, Adam quickly figured out you just play 5-color trash pile of every rare and uncommon you get past. You just play 5 colors. And then we've also told a lot of stories about in Hour of a Devastation and Amonkhet Limited how Adam and I just started like almost exclusively drafting 4 or 5-color decks, and we got to understand them quite well. And I mean, part of that, like, when we would tell other people to try and draft this way, they would end up mulliganing wrong. Because almost every single 7-card hand that you drew out of these decks didn't look functional.
They looked comically bad. Like they just would do nothing and die.
It'd be green-red cards, a hieroglyphic illumination, and like plain swamp.
Yeah. But you have to keep that hand.
Right. That's the issue. That's the point, is that you have to keep this hand. Because unlike in Standard, where most decks are built to be consistent, like built to be consistent is inherently not greedy. It is built to not have to rely on luck. It does the same thing every game.
Correct.
But these 4 and 5-color decks were just like the example of greed.
Right, and I mean, you can't get punished in the same way in Limited because people's decks aren't consistent. It's limited.
Right, and they're slower. They have like less powerful threats. So you have time to draw out of this. So
and as soon as you do, it's over.
Right. So when you're playing a deck that is greedy before you even sit down to play, like it's just built greedy. It's built to have a very high power level, do a lot of strong things if, you know, the mana works out or if you draw the right cards. Then you have to demand from this deck. You have to play expecting that it will work out. Because if you mull a 6, you are less likely to eventually assemble all the cards you need.
Right. I mean, this is a classic, like, you can think of greed, like, in relation to combo decks as well. Like, when you're playing Storm, you know, it's hard to mull. It's a really hard decision, you know, because you need a bunch of pieces generally. I mean, less so now with Gifts Ungiven, right? With the versions that they're playing now. You know, previously though, but even in a format like Legacy, like it's a little risky to mull game 1. You know, you have duresses in your main deck, right? And like when you're trying to storm off, that's a bit awkward, right? So it's like you have to weigh there are certainly like greedy decks that the decision matters to mull more because like you're trading consistency for power level. So you have to make that decision in the mull about whether to be greedy because it's based like Storm is a greedy deck, right? It's trying to kill you on turn 1. If it draws well, but if it doesn't, like if it draws the wrong pieces, it is just unfunctional. Like it just can't function.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to decide like what your deck is doing. And like when you're playing a 5-color limited deck, like it's inherently greedy.
Mm-hmm.
So know your role. No, we've talked about this tons on the podcast in the past. Like know your role. Like you're a greedy deck. So like you don't unless your hand is literally like 7 6-drops, you know, well then I don't know why you drafted that. I mean I would because it would also have 6 signets, but
yeah.
Like otherwise, you probably have to keep the hand and hope it pans out.
I guess, okay, so here's 2 examples I just thought of sort of more common decks that are being played currently and kind of how greed shapes your decision in each of them. So the first example is these 4-color energy decks that are basically just Teamer, but with the Scarab God.
And Vraska.
And Vraska now.
So getting greedier.
Right. Choosing to add this color for a card of a higher power level is greedy because it could cause you mana issues. If you draw Swamp early, it's rough, etc. Or you could draw your black cards and not a black mana source.
Or you could just draw it in your
Right,
Vraska in your opening hand and just your curve is 4 to 6 drops.
Right. So it is inherently greedier, which means that you have to, like when you're mulliganing with these decks, you don't see people mull to 6 because, I don't have a black source on my opener.
Yeah, no, you're never doing
Right.
that.
because they know that this deck is built in such a way that it will eventually find a black source. These greedy decks like end up panning out. Whereas, yeah, so like that's, a slightly greedy example.
Right, because they're pushing the limits of how long they can make the game go because the rest of their deck can play an early, normal, reasonable game.
Right.
So they're allowed to be a little bit greedy when they can do that. And that's kind of how the nuclear arms race starts for mid-range decks, right? Of just going bigger and bigger, greedier and greedier and greedier.
Mm-hmm.
Just how you end up with Bolus in the main, which we saw at this GP.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet. So yeah, but they can like mulligan ignoring the greedy part of their deck because it's kind of minor. They know it's eventually going to work out. Then you could also look at a deck like Mardu Vehicles, which also has some greed inherent in it. It's playing one of like the best removal spell in the format, maybe second best next to Harness Lightning, but like Unlicensed Disintegration is nuts if you have an artifact. So that's the greed there, is that like sometimes that deck, they're playing Spire of Industry, they're playing
And their
Unlicensed.
mana is like... whew.
Right, and the mana is kind of rough. So like sometimes that deck, like it's so bad if they never find an artifact or if your artifact gets killed. But if you have a hand that's like Inventor's Apprentice, Veteran Motorist, lands and Unlicensed and a push, like you keep that because your deck is built in such a way to enable this greed. You know you will eventually get an artifact. You have to play as if you will get an artifact. You can't mulligan that hand.
No, Lord, no.
Right.
Yeah, so like you have to weigh the decision. And generally speaking, Magic is a game of greed, right? It's a game of like taking risks for rewards. I think
Mhm.
it's just that there are a lot of deck building and decision that there's just not a lot of risk, right? But you're definitely making decisions based on like a greedy outcome. You want something to happen. Like a lot of the times, I think the best plays are done that way. I think
Mhm.
the best moments, at least, like your win rate, I think is probably higher.
Yeah.
Um,
On the- and I guess so. We don't really have a blowout of the week prepared yet, but kind of topical. The blowout of the weeks is that. Yeah.
um,
On the- and I guess so. We don't really have a blowout of the week prepared yet, but kind of topical. The blowout of the weeks is that, because you're taking more risks, like there is a chance that this fails, that this all goes wrong. And with deck construction errors, it's usually you just get mana screwed or you don't draw the card you need. But with things like making greedy attacks or making greedy plays, or if you're a control deck, letting a potentially risky creature resolve because you need to draw an untapped land to wrath your opponent the next turn. Like that is greedy. You're demanding more out of your wrath and more out of your counterspell.
and more out of your life total.
And more out of your life total if you get luck, if you like draw the land you need in a reasonable time. But making plays like this is where blowouts come from. Very like good blowouts is when someone makes, a greedy play and it does not pan out and they get horribly punished.
Yeah, or it does like pan
Or it
out.
does
Like,
pan
just
out and then their
works.
opponent gets blown out.
Yeah, like the greedy plays are the huge flashy. Like it's like what was the one we had? And one of my favorite blowouts here. It was the one he had Brain in the Jar, and he only had islands in play, and he
Oh,
was
yeah.
splashing for Fumigate in the deck.
In like a basically mono blue deck.
And and so super greedy, and he got attacked with I don't know 2 billion Felidar Guardians,
Yeah.
and he said, "Okay, Fumigate you." Untap, play the stupid
Aether Flex.
Aether Flex
Aether
Reservoir,
or something reservoir. Yeah.
and then just dome you for 1 billion, right? Like,
yeah.
so that's a greedy deck building decision, right? But that's where blowouts come from. I think is like you make this greedy deck build decision, then you just ranch someone with it, like the Peter Sokorek thing. Like he's playing. I'm pronouncing this dude's name wrong, so apologies because he's for sure listening. He's playing Aura Devastation, right? It's like. That card's gonna blow people out. Like playing a 5 mana Wrath, like in your sideboard and your
In your
mid-range
creature deck. Yeah.
in your mid range deck is like a little weird, and it's one of those really situational cards. But man, is it gonna ranch people because they don't see it coming, right?
Mhm.
Like get some mono reds like Hazard player, their Chandra and their Glorybringer, like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. They're never going to play around it.
never. That's what I'm saying. Like ever, you're just gonna crumple them. So like yeah, I think that. Those kind of like greedy power level decisions, that's what I was getting at when like mid range is big. Like you can start really like having fun and being greedy. And I think that's where a lot of blowouts come from is like trying to
Yeah.
set up those situations.
The reason, yeah, that's sort of motivation for playing greedy. The reason I mentioned blowouts is that if you like start taking our advice and you try to make some greedier plays in your next coming up games and you get punished, like this is a particular example of like you can make a correct decision and lose. Like if you start experimenting with greedy play and you get blown out, like that's fine. That's what you signed up for.
Oh yeah.
You just have to realize that like that's just how these games go, and that you should only be making risky decisions that you think, will probably work out more than half the time.
Right. You have to be aware of the risk.
Right. But if you go out and try and play, like make greedy attacks to push damage, or you try whatever in the next few games you play and you lose all of them, like you could just be unlucky. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that you're playing wrong.
Story of my life.
Right.
I'm
like
literally never lucky.
Yeah, that's just a point I wanted to emphasize is that like
Stelly with his face in his hands over here at me saying
greedy plays are sort of the example of plays that are correct but look wrong when they fail.
Yes, that's definitely true too. I think it's worth experimenting with those plays and like really just kind of being you got it. Like I'm dead, if they had it, but if they don't, like, and just accepting what you're doing. And I think it's fun. I think it's like kind of the thrill and also why we play Magic, right? So sinful. Just concerned Christian moms.
And it helps, like...
Look what we're promoting.
Just being greedy and sinning.
No heckin' swearing on my podcast, please.
Okay, man. Family show.
It's kind of, what's...
I'm gonna play this Grixis improvised deck, by the way, that top 8 chunk, because it's like comically, it's so greedy.
Yeah,
that's like a classic greedster deck, right? Like it can't win, like unless it gets like all its pieces like
in the right order.
Like its power level's so low at its fail state. Like its fail state is like you're playing a bad draft deck.
Yeah,
but it's like high roll is through the roof, and this guy just like high rolled all weekend, right? Like
I was watching Kenji's stream the other day, and he was playing that deck, and he was playing against blue-white approach. His approach opponent had like 3 authoritative consoles in play. He just made like a shitload of Thopters, gained a bunch of energy, got his opponent to like 300 plus life, attacked with like hundreds of Thopters, got set on the wreckage. Like, oh man,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that matchup doesn't seem good.
No, it has to be
that
winnable.
Matchup seems like horrendous.
Yeah.
Although it's because I'm a fan of Herald of Anguish that I want to play like improvised decks. I like that card. I think it's like very good.
I don't even think that card's in that deck.
I don't think it is, but I'm gonna put it in it because I just am a fan of that card and I think it's good.
Yeah, man, it's just
Flux Glorybringer.
Grixis Thopters with featuring the Scarab God.
4 Aether Swooper though, that's nuts. Energy confirmed a busted mechanic.
The decoction module in here is the real spicy tech.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's the all-star in the deck.
Yeah.
Also, the 4 Aether Swooper top 8ing a standard tournament makes me feel a lot better, although I never really felt guilty about it, about how many pack 1, pick 1 Aether Swoopers we took. How many did we take? At one point, I think it was just every pack. Like, I would just take pack 1, pick 1 Aether Swooper.
That
like,
or Chaser.
Nuts.
Or Chase. Like, that was just what I did. Like,
yep.
We were just ahead of the curve, just playing standard decks in limited.
Clearly,
because this is just all we played in limited.
Oh.
This is just the limited deck that we advocated for on the podcast, right? Like we were like, this is the best deck, and it's not close. Like
that's another interesting thing. So we talked about greed in like constructed formats a bunch, and we talked a little bit about like mulliganing decisions of limited decks, but even just in the draft process.
Oh yeah,
being a greedy drafter, like that didn't come like cross my mind until now. But
the best draft decks, I think the best drafters in the world, if you watch them draft, get paid off.
Right.
They got paid off. Right? Like they opened the pack 2 and it had a Glorybringer and they had caught red.
You'll see people say this all like, oh, pack 1, pick 1, there's this like very, very good card. Oh, but it's double color, so you're not gonna go with the like medium single color card because I don't want to commit. I want to stay open, whatever. Like people try and draft safe. And especially in Ixalan, we've been saying that you can't draft safe in this set.
No, God, no.
So yeah, that's another like if you remember what we've been saying about Ixalan, all of our advice is basically draft greedy.
Right. I mean, we're playing pirates. We're out here looting.
Yeah. Collecting as many riches as we can.
Yeah, get out of my way. Yeah. Stelly wouldn't even let me play Revel in Riches that one time though. Remember you were like, don't do it. And I was like, come on. I want to do so badly.
No.
The world's biggest greedster. But yeah, I think that like in the draft process, like in some formats, it doesn't pay off, I don't think. But in a format like Excellent, I think is a format that is a high risk, high reward format.
You
Yeah.
can
So
just
you're-
draft 5 New Horizons and play everything.
That
There you
is
go.
what I did. That draft deck was wild. That was the easiest 4-0 of my life. Because my deck was just unbelievably greedy, right? And the power level in Ixalan is low. So being greedy, if it pays off in a draft format like Ixalan, is just so powerful. But in Kaladesh, for example, we didn't advocate greed. We advocated like consistent, low to the ground, fast, evasion, right?
Yeah.
So it is different. It's draft dependent. But I think in this draft format, you got to be greedy.
I
Even
agree.
And my draft at the Tower Open, like I drafted a super consistent low to the ground, like quote unquote good aggro deck. My deck on paper like looked nuts, and it just like wasn't good. I mean, I also got very unlucky, so it's hard to judge. But I don't think those decks are like actually that great in this format. And like all the most successful drafts at Ixalan I've just been like wildly greedy, and it's paid off. Even in my picks, like you know what I mean, just slamming like pack one, pick one, Shapers of Nature. I'm just slamming it, like not even blinders on, not even looking back.
Every time
Mhm.
I've opened it, pack one, pick one, I've taken it.
Yeah, I'm just slamming. But maybe that's not even a good example. But like something like Plunderers, the black, the 5-mana black 3/3, black and blue 3/3 that gets bigger.
Oh, yeah.
You have treasures. Just like
Yeah.
if the pack sucks, just blinders on, man, slam it, and just take every sailor and memes you see.
Sailor memes.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like I think in this format, like you just got to power load, just be greedy and be like, I'm taking this card and seeing where I go.
it's kind of like where you start being greedy in a pack is format dependent. But even as like a minor example of being greedy while drafting, expecting things to wheel is a form of greed that you kind of have to do to draft well.
Oh yeah, if you watch LSV, who obviously excellent drafter,
Mhm.
you know, he does that all the time. Like he will gamble on being like, okay, I'm hoping the person like 3 seats over is in this color, but there's like 2 good green cards. Maybe I'll get this green card back because no one else is. Right? Like he plays for the wheel all the time.
Yeah, because
Like he
it's
spins the wheel.
yeah in like when you see a pack that has 2 cards in it that you want both, you know you generally end up taking the one that's better for your deck. But it's then in the next couple packs that you make the actual gamble, that you make the actual greedy play of like, oh, well, you know, now again, there's 2 cards I want. One is a copy of the card I didn't take. And so I'm going to gamble that that card is going to come back. Like it was a 2-drop I didn't take. So I'm not going to take a 2-drop here, even though I need one.
Hoping it wheels.
Right. Being greedy that the other one will wheel.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that like some of the best draft decks and the best drafters would advocate for this strategy because that's how you end up with a 10 out of 10 draft deck.
Mhm.
That's how you end up with absurd draft decks, right? It's like a combination of reading your, obviously you still have to read your seed and like see what's, and trying to draft the best you can in all the other ways that you can position yourself well in a draft. But I mean, yeah, I think the best draft decks have played to the wheel and got rewarded, right? And they didn't get sideswiped, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's really good advice too. And I think that, every like Pro Tour top 8 competitor will tell you like, I got lucky. Like, like my drafts, like I just kept getting, like I got it exactly what I needed. Like they all say like I got here on the 5-1 limited performance. I got lucky in my drafts. Like,
Mhm.
so I think that that's definitely a part of it is that you just kind of get lucky and rewarded at the high level of drafting. At lower levels, like, yeah, you can probably get away with more, but
Yeah. And so as a tie-in to our previous episode, the Care Less episode, if you want to go out and start, making greedy plays, you actually have to it's necessary to care less. Like if you play greedy, you need to understand that you're going to lose games, and that's fine.
yeah, you just can't care.
Right. That's why, at least around Ottawa, I'm sure there's a similar sort of culture in other game stores in other cities, but very good players will show up to F&M or to whatever event, and they'll go 0-1 and they'll drop. Because, they probably are trying some greedy deck, or they're probably doing something they drafted incredibly greedy, and it didn't work. I know this deck, I don't really want to sit through the rest. They're removed from their results. But when it does work, they crumple everybody. So you only see them stick around when they're winning.
Oh, I like that you're literally describing Phil Sims.
Yeah, right? They understand because they're so not results oriented that they're not going to stick around and just play to a middle finish.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I just drop
Yeah.
all the time. If I'm like, this deck, my draft deck's a train wreck. I'm out of here. Like, I just can't win. This thing's so bad. Like, it's
Right, but you didn't intend to draft a bad deck. You tried something and
Yeah,
then
I was
realized
just
it didn't go well. Okay,
trying
sure.
something and
I
it didn't
took a
work.
risk. It didn't work.
that's literally what F&M is for.
Yeah.
F&M is for experimenting, right? Like F&M is for experimenting with decks, like trying different things, playing with your sideboard. F&M is for being
Do
greedy.
whatever the hell you want at F&M.
Yeah, F&M
Yeah.
is for being greedy. You know what I mean? Like it's a place to try out crazy shit. Like,
Confirmed.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it's for. Like I think that that's a good way, and I think that's how you get better at Magic.
It also just makes
Because
F&M funner.
Yeah, it makes it way more bearable. But also, like, most people don't have that mindset. Most people show up to F&M with like stock lists and just like learn to play the best deck. And
Gotta
they're
win
like,
my promo.
literally, yeah, gotta win my promo. Literally, they're just like trying to grind store credit, like whatever. Like, you can't. That's bad.
Do that on Thursday.
Right. Do that on a different day, or don't
Don't do it.
you
Yeah.
know, think that Magic makes you money. Right. Like that's such a, get a real job. Like just if you,
Yeah, Adam. Get real tough.
wow. Shut up. Unless you're me. That just sit around and play video games. I have literally worked today. I'm proud of myself. I like did a day of work in the last month, and I'm like, man, look at me. I'm out here just being productive. Like I literally wore sweatpants for the last 9 days, the same pair.
Jeez.
I changed my boxers. I'm not an animal.
You're just being. It's just the greedy play. You're demanding the most out of your pants.
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't burst on me. So just sitting here eating this chicken Popeye, playing video games, doing nothing.
All right, we're wrapping this up. Thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic single needs. However you listen to this podcast, whether it's on Podbean, iTunes, your podcast app, leave us a review, rate the podcast, share it with your friends. It's the best way to keep this podcast growing. We
Growth
love
is
hearing from you.
good.
Shoot us a message, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, connect with us.
We're greedy with our likes. Give us more likes.
As they say in Canada, peace.